Welcome to this Wood Solutions campus presentation on selling and supplying timber and wood products that are fit for a customer's intended purpose or application. Selling a fit-for-purpose product requires two things. The first is knowing what the product application is. This will largely establish the product's performance requirements, what it has to do to perform satisfactorily. The second is knowing the performance that the product can reliably deliver. This second point is discussed in later presentations in this and other courses. This presentation focuses on finding out the intended application for the product and determining the requirements of that application. A product is fit for purpose if it does the job that the consumer wants or was told that it would do for an expected period of time. To express this more technically, the supplied products must satisfy the application's performance requirements efficiently. To determine the application, someone along the supply chain has to ask the customer questions.
I think a lot of the problems that we have with that our customers have, who in a lot of cases are reselling the product, is that they haven't got the information from their customer, so that you've got someone at the end of the chain with certain ideas about what they want, but that doesn't come through the reseller to us, and so products might be provided that aren't the best for the job, or I think the other issue is that better alternatives might have been available, but the whole story doesn't come right back to us. I think sometimes merchants don't ask enough questions.
Each application has a context, such as a location and expected level of performance. This context generates requirements that timber or wood products have to satisfy if they are to perform satisfactorily. That is, be fit for purpose. One example of this is a timber deck beside a pool. The context for the application is that it is outside, exposed to sun and weather, and that the boards near the pool are likely to be splashed regularly with the chemicals in the pool water. Each of these factors will influence how the timber, any finishing and any fixings are likely to perform. Let's look at some of the key requirements that influence applications and the performance that they may demand of the supplied material. Most applications require compliance with regulations and standards. This demands known strength and many other characteristics from the material. Applications outside require the material to resist the impacts of the sun and water. This demands a level of durability from the product. The moisture content of the air can change in some applications, such as in a bathroom, in an air-conditioned space, or in a room in the tropics. Timber is hygroscopic and changes in size with changes in moisture content, so this has to be handled. Some applications require resistance to wear and tear. This requires the timber to be suitably hard. There are some special market conditions that need to be satisfied. For example, the customer may require forest and chain of custody certification, or the building may be in a bushfire prone area. There are key questions to ask about the application initially. It is important to determine if the application is inside the building or outside, exposed to the sun and rain, if it is a structural application where it has to support a load in a structure, or if it is an appearance application. The look of the product may be important in both cases, but looks will certainly be important in the appearance application. If the application is exposed to key hazards such as termite attack or bushfires, special material or details may be needed. Finally, if the project is environmentally sensitive and requires forest certified or recycled materials, additional details may also be needed.
The second product question I often ask is, well, is it going to be used inside or outside? Obviously, if it's inside, durability is not going to be such a great factor. If it's outside, obviously durability will be a factor. If it is external, is it above ground or in ground? Because the 5604, that's the Australian standard, differentiates between durability ratings of above ground, and if it's in ground, which is much more corrosive to the timber, then you've got to understand that as well.
Let's look at possible answers to these key questions in turn and quickly discuss how they affect the importance of the key performance requirements identified above. Each of these will be covered in more detail in other videos in this course. If the timber is to be used inside and effectively protected from the weather, durability should not be a major consideration. However, coping with moisture content change and resistance to wear and tear may be necessary. Similarly, exposure to moisture in a bathroom or the subfloor space, or the changing condition in a heated or air-conditioned space, can also be particularly important. For timber used outside, the extent of the exposure and the material's durability to that exposure is by far the most important consideration. If the timber's application is outside the building, establish if it is used outside above ground, or if it is in contact with the ground or in contact with fresh or salt water. Timber used outside has to be either naturally durable enough to robustly resist the effects of wind, water, sun, fungus and insects, or treated sufficiently to provide this resistance. Other considerations can be important, but material durability is most important by far. Structural timber is used both inside and outside the building, so durability is a key consideration. However, the major consideration with structural material is regulatory compliance. All structural applications are regulated, and any timber or wood product used in them needs to be of the correct size and grade. Unlike structural applications, appearance applications are not highly regulated, and this provides a lot of freedom in selecting material. However, other necessary performance requirements still need to be met. Appearance timber can be used both inside and outside the building, so durability can be a key consideration, especially for material used outside. Resistance to wear and coping with moisture content change is also important. Timber and wood products can be exposed to key hazards, particularly termites and bushfires. Termites are insects that eat the cellulose in buildings, such as timber and wood products. Here the timber's durability is important, and protection from termites is regulated. The use of timber externally on buildings in bushfire-prone areas is also regulated, and compliance with AS 3959 is necessary. This standard limits the materials used in the building's envelope and index. The sustainability of forest practice can be certified to internationally agreed standards, and the timber from these forests can also be certified and specified for a particular project. Timber can also be recycled, and this has attractions to a range of customers. While these environmental considerations affect product selection, they don't reduce the importance of the application's other requirements. Certified timber used outside or as flooring should perform as at least as well as comparable non-certified material. These key questions only provide the first layers of answers. More questions may be needed to guide product selection and ensure the delivered product is fit for the customer's purpose.
Well, I think with regards to decking in particular, there's that issue, and I know it must be hard for a merchant. They can't interview their customer and say, now tell me exactly what you're doing with it, but I think a few simple questions like, you're not using, is this a low to the ground deck? And if the customer says yes it is, then maybe recommend a narrower board rather than the wider board. Mm-hmm. A quick question about, what are you doing for ventilation underneath it? And maybe just say to them, you've got to be careful, these boards might cup if you're putting it too close to the ground, rather than have the deck laid and then these things happen, because I find that the builders these days, I think would have previously had the knowledge to advise the homeowner, oh no, let's not do that because that board's a bit too wide, I think we should go narrow, but the builder doesn't seem to have that knowledge these days, I find, and so that catch point where it might previously have been stopped is eliminated, so wide board goes all the way through because that's what the customer wants, and then there's issues.
When we get orders from joiners, builders, we typically try to ask, in most cases, what is it going to be used for, and if we see and hear that, hey, we don't believe this will work, we will tell them there and then.
In summary, selling a fit-for-purpose product for an application requires knowing what the product application is and the performance that the product can reliably deliver. Each application has a context, and this generates requirements that timber or wood products have to satisfy if they are to perform satisfactorily. Key questions need to be asked and follow-up questions may be needed to guide product selection and ensure the delivered product is fit for purpose.